What's going on, everyone? Fearless Football Forecast here, back at you again with another mock draft. We got a Superflex mock today. Just reminding everyone before we get into it to subscribe. We keep getting the views, but we need the followers. So, everyone, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Let's get into this.
Yeah, so for today, we're doing two quarterback leagues. So it's going to be two quarterbacks, two running backs, two receivers, a tight end, and three flexes. And then we just are going to do the typical, six bench spots, PPR league. I'm excited to do a super flex with you. We've never actually done any type of super flex stuff together, so I'm excited to see where we go here.
Ever. And I am fresh off of
Yeah.
a Superflex draft that is in an actual league. I literally just did it last week, so I'll talk about that at the very end of the video. But
Mhm.
let's do rock, paper, scissors to see who
Oh
gets
yeah.
the first random number generator. Let's go.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
You got me. All right, let's see.
All right.
Bang. You got pick 9.
9.
So
Okay.
click that. And then, let's see. What did I get? I got pick 11. So once again, I feel like every
Mhm.
single draft, we're always like
Yeah, definitely
pretty close to each other.
there.
This is going to be interesting. Being late in a super flex is usually the times when you end up with the better position players, but the worst quarterbacks. Especially like I'm terrified at my position. Just saying it before we get started, I'm terrified if I skip on a quarterback in the first 2 rounds that I probably won't get one when we come around. But let's see it. Might as well click start.
All right, let's start her up.
Interesting. Allen or Mahomes.
Herbert went before Hurts. Interesting start. All right, so what's tough about GQB leagues is you have the positional value that falls to you, and is obviously extremely enticing. Um, my opinion is that you really do want to, if there's a guy that you think can be truly impactful, you want to try and come away with a quarterback. And I'm in on the Justin Fields hype train. I really am. You know, you and I have talked about back when the odds first dropped, dropping a little on the MVP number, which not likely, but he has that upside as a rusher and a quarterback, and I'm really big on that. I think that the Fields in fantasy is an even better play than in real life. So I'm shocking myself a little bit. I'm gonna go with Justin Fields here.
Okay. All right, perfect. It ended up working out so well for me there. I was terrified that I wasn't going to get Trevor Lawrence, but I'm going to go with my QB1 in Trevor Lawrence, who I expect to be a top 7, maybe top 5 quarterback this year. Love the Jags,
If
love
if
Lawrence.
Jefferson or Chase fell to me, I probably would have gone them.
Oh,
Just wanted to throw that out there.
100%. 100%. And if Tyreek fell to me, I probably would have taken him right there. Um, so now I'm at the point where it really looks like a lot of these receivers aren't going to drop to me. But then again, not one is really standing out to me.
You off Cup now that he hurt his hammy?
Kind of. I mean, I was never really a big Cup guy to begin with. Um, you know what? I'm just going to stick with who I actually think is going to finish highest. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I just think that the Cowboys are going to be in a lot of shootouts this year, and Lamb's the true one. I love A.J. Brown this year. Actually, in my one Superflex league, I ended up with both Brown and CeeDee Lamb. It's just I think Devonta Smith's going to eat a lot into Brown's output this year, and I don't think the same can be said about Brandon Cooks with Lamb.
All right, fair enough. So I would consider Watson here because I do think that the Browns are going to have a really good year. I think that they're going to be competing for the number 1 seed, quite honestly. But to me, I can't pass up Cooper Kupp. I think that he is, um, you know, obviously the injury scares me, but the fact that I'm getting him as the 6th receiver off the board kind of shocks me. I think if he can play the full season, he's basically a lock for a top 3 receiver. So I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp here. And we'll see how the board falls.
You went Cup over Brown. I thought you were high on Brown this year.
I do love AJ Brown. I do love AJ Brown, but I think that Cup is the safer pick. Quite honestly, I think he's locked in for that. So I love AJ Brown. I think that his ceiling is phenomenal, but in a league where I came away with Justin Fields as my first pick, um, I feel like I have to go with a guy who I know for a fact that if he's playing, will week in week out be a top 5 receiver. Um, and I'm looking here, trying to see who's on the board. I love Olave here. Um, sorry, I'm just running through looking at the board. So, quite honestly, and I know that there's guys that I do like later on here. But I personally feel like that this guy's kind of been, and we've talked about it a couple times, I think, that this guy kind of gets overshadowed this season. He's been extremely productive his entire career, and I think that this is a significant drop for him. I'm actually going to go with Dak Prescott, and I'm going to get my quarterback position out of the way.
And that's
Grab
who
a
I
guy
wanted
late.
there. That's who I wanted there, 100%. Dak was
I feel like
standing
big
out
tier
to me.
break. Big tier break.
Oh yeah, no, Dak was standing out to me. Thankfully, I got the other quarterback that I would put in the same tier as Prescott. Going with Tua. I think as long as he stays healthy this year, there's no way he's not a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I think that he's going to be fantastic. And with Tyreek and Waddle, he should be slinging the ball all around. Now, here's a spot that I really don't like because a lot of the players that I really want are down, and I don't know if I'm going to get them when they come back. I'm going to do something really, really interesting here, I think. I'm going to take my guy. I'm just going to go down and take my guy in case he doesn't come to me. I'm going all the way down to pick number 58 here. I'm going with Joe Mixon. I need my running back one. I didn't like the other players that were on the board. I said it before and I'll say it again. I think that Joe Mixon ends up as a top 5 fantasy running back this year. And he's just going to have so many touchdowns. The Bengals don't have a clear number 2. And Mixon is a guy that I'm literally targeting in every single league. I think he's going to be fantastic, and the value that you're getting on him is amazing. Probably could have got him in the next round, but I really didn't want to risk it and pick a player I didn't want.
Okay, so once Olave went off the board, there was 3 guys that were in my top 3, and there was one guy that clearly stood out to me. And thankfully, since you took your shot on Mixon, he fell to me. Usually it's weird to take a quarterback and a running back on the same team, but Tony Pollard is very effective in the passing game. I think that he'll have 60-ish catches, somewhere around there. So it's a weird stack, but I still think that there is a stack with this. And I just think as of right now, we've both said that maybe Zeke goes back there or, some other veteran bruiser that they might get. But even if they do, I think that Pollard is going to still get the requisite amount of touches to where I think he's going to be really, really good this year for fantasy, especially, like I said, PPR league. So I'm going to go with Tony Pollard. Like you said, same philosophy that you had, getting your locked-in RB1. I love Tony Pollard. Get him in the 4th round here. Fantastic to me. We'll see how this falls. Yeah, I like Pollard a lot this year. I don't think I'm shocking the world with anybody on that. I think he's pretty popularly liked.
Oh, yeah.
So, and this, the draft position with having Fields is one of the reasons that I was okay taking Fields where I did, is because I had a feeling that the guy that, the guy that I wanted receiver-wise would fall to me, his number 1, DJ Moore. We saw it in the first preseason game. Obviously, it was just a screen pass, but I'm probably one of the top 15 biggest DJ Moore fans in the entire world. I think that he has all the talent in the world. I think he's great deep. I think he's a great route runner. And I think that if Justin Fields stays healthy and this connection is alive all season, that DJ Moore can do some great things. So I'm going to go with my boy DJ Moore here.
What I love, and I absolutely love this, is that you just did pretty much the same thing that I just did with Mixon. We just skipped down and got the guy that we wanted instead of just going by the official rankings. And I think that like that's another reason why hopefully the fans out there watching really enjoy us, because we are going with our actual rankings and not the rankings that are provided in front of us. I'm very happy that Darren Waller went right there. I'm going to go out and get another guy that I've been high on all season, Kyle Pitts. I think he's going to end up being the tight end 2 or 3 this season. I was kind of hoping that I got Judy on the way back, but it didn't happen, and I am fine with that. Okay, great. So all the running backs are looking really good. And I'm going to get my stack here. I wanted to get one stack. You robbed me of getting the Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb stack. But I'm actually going to go with Christian Kirk, who is a guy that I think is the true number 1 in Jacksonville. His connection with Trevor is great. If you watch the preseason game 1, they had a great touchdown together. I watch the Jags religiously. I'm in the state of Florida. Every single time Trevor Lawrence looks first for Kirk, and I don't think that's going to change with Ridley. If anything, Ridley's just going to be a way that Kirk can get open more. And the fact that you can get him an entire round after Ridley is another reason why I really want to draft him. So I'm happy with the team so far.
Yeah, so when you said that you're happy Waller went, I was the exact opposite. He was like I think he was the third tight end on the board. I was really hoping he would fall to me. He would be 100% locked and loaded my pick. That was my hope that he would fall to me here. You and I see Pitts and Waller in the same light. I think Waller is going to be that guy that's second or third among tight ends. That's Pitts for you. So I'm a little disappointed there. Ultimately, with the way that the board is stacking up now, I'm torn between the top 2 receivers that are on the board. I'm in on the Packers this year. I think that their offense is going to be fine. And in that sense, I think Christian Watson is going to be good. And then same with Pittman. I'm in on Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to be a stud. Honestly, I would consider taking him here, but I feel safe with my quarterbacks. And I feel like taking 3 quarterbacks with the first 6 picks, while it makes my quarterback position completely just locked and loaded, ready to go, I feel like I don't really need that. I think that I should go with a position player here. So I'm torn between Watson and Pittman. And quite honestly, I'm going to go with the guy who I just think is better, and I'm going to go with Michael Pittman.
I like the Pittman pick there a lot. As you know, I hate Christian Watson. So when you mentioned his name, I was happy that you ended up taking Pittman instead. Richardson had 2 completions to him the other day, which really lessened my concerns for Pittman. Richardson looked pretty good in that preseason game.
Yeah, and I'm torn.
It looks
here.
like all the backs that we wanted went.
Yeah, so I'm torn right now. There's a couple guys that I'm eyeing, and sorry, I'm just taking this in. So I'm tempted to go Richardson. I know that I said I would consider him last round. I felt like 3 of my first 6 picks would be a lot. Right now, I feel like he's fallen so far that it might be good, but there's also a couple other guys that I really like here. I'm not going to say their name. I think you'll probably draft them if I don't take them. Yeah, I'm torn here, but I'm going to go with my gut. There is another later quarterback that I think is going to be really good for fantasy this year. So I'm going to go with my guy, Rachaad White. We both love him this year. Yeah, I think he's going to be a stud, and to have him as my RB, to me, he is, I don't want to say the best, but off the top of my head, like if I was in a draft and my RB2 is Rachaad White, obviously it depends on the rest of your roster, but I think Rachaad White is an amazing RB2. He's got the upside to be in that top 12 week in, week out. And I think that he's going to have enough targets and enough touches to where he'll be consistently an RB2 throughout the year. So I'm going to go with my boy Rachaad White.
I love it. That's who I was going to take. But instead, I ended up with the other one. It was really a coin flip for me. I love both these players. I love White, and I also love Isaiah Pacheco, who I just drafted. So Rodgers went off the board here. I like my team. I'm not too big on any of these receivers that are left on the board, so I actually am going to go with Anthony Richardson. Sorry. Kind of needed him, especially with Tua, a guy with injury concerns. And after watching Richardson in preseason, he just looked so composed. I think that he's going to be out there a lot earlier than expected this year. That was like when we were always debating Richardson in all the podcasts, for those of you that listened. My only diss on him was that I didn't think he was going to play much this season, but he looked good enough in week 1 in preseason to be able to start week 1 in the actual NFL season. So,
yeah, I mean, that's a great pick. The value on that is phenomenal. Obviously, I mentioned considering him with my pick, 2 rounds ago. So, I can't fault you in any sense with that pick. So there was 2 receivers that really stuck out to me. One of them went in Deontay Johnson, so I'm going to go with my boy. As you said, if you've been listening along with us throughout our ride so far, I'm big on Jordan Addison this year. I think that he's going to be a stud. Jefferson's going to take away a lot of focus from opposing defenses, so I'm going to go with my boy Jordan Addison there. And as a 4th receiver, he's going to be playing in the flex. I really like him there. Oh, a little quarterback run.
big run, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm looking here. I just want to check the position players here. And it is perfect because one of the guys that I wanted to fall to me fell to me. I think this is perfect position. So when I took Dak, obviously I knew that I didn't have CeeDee Lamb. But what I could do is take the number 2 on that offense, who I think will be pretty productive this year. I mean, talent-wise, he's one of the best receivers in the league. He's not a true X, but he's had 1,000 yards every year except for his rookie year and last year, where basically he just sat out games because he was pissed off. I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. I think that he's going to have a resurgence, and people go, okay, yeah, this is the Brandon Cooks we know.
Yeah, those were a perfect 2 picks, especially after you having Moore and Pittman, who are 2 very consistent wide receivers. Adding Addison and Cooks to give you that explosion, I think, is a great addition to your team. I'm at the point here where I guess I'm going to load up. I'm going to load up on running backs, which I rarely do, but I'm going to do it. Khalil Herbert, as much as we love Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert is still on his last year of his contract with the Bears. Very talented player. There were many times last season where he was a top 5 running back in fantasy. So I'm going to go with Herbert there. And I'm glad I took him there because I was considering waiting. It looks like there was a little run on running backs there. Next up,
that's
we're
Team
going to
12's first 2 running backs.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now it gets to the point in the draft where you really just got to start taking your guys. And I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman, someone who I think could be a high-end wide receiver too. He's got the talent. As good as Zay Flowers is, I think, for fantasy this season, Bateman is the answer. He looked great last year. Every single mock draft, I think I've ended up with him that we've done on the show so far, dynasty or regular. So I got to keep that trend going.
Yeah, and with this one, I'm just going to go with my gut. We've mentioned stacking a couple times. Pollard, Dak, Cooks, Fields, Moore. So, and I am truly a believer in the proponent of stacking because, your upside on any given week is fantastic. Logic in that sense would tell you to go Matthew Stafford here. But I'm going to go with a guy who I think that the offense is going to be really surprising this year. I think that the weapons are just so good. And like I said, I mentioned his teammate earlier, who I would have considered earlier. I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett. I think that he's just really going to be really consistent all year long. He's got rushing ability. He's not like like a Lamar or a Hurts level rusher, but he's going to rush for first downs in the red zone if he thinks that it's his legs for a touchdown or the end of a drive. He's going to push it. So I'm really excited for him for fantasy this year. I think that he could be sneaky good value, and I love him as a third quarterback. And then looking around, it looks like I'm just punting the tight end position here. There's a couple of guys that I like, but I just don't feel like it's the right pick here. I like my receivers. There's a guy that I would consider. Maybe hope he falls back to me. My running backs. I've only got the two. I think both of them I love I love Pollard as your RB1. I love White as your RB2. But one of them goes down, I'm screwed with this build. I'm going like running back as of right now. I'm gonna go with a guy who I think has really high upside. We got to see the first preseason game, and he was extremely productive in the receiving game. I'm going to go with A-Chain. I think that in a PPR league, I think that there's a chance that he could be extremely involved in the passing game. And if he is, I think, as an RB3, I could live with that and be happy with that.
And I'm really happy with my position right here because the player that I was actually considering drafting last pick ended up coming to me, and that's Cortland Sutton. Right now I'm praying. Damn, I didn't get Sky Moore. Fuck.
So that's who I was considering. That's who I was between with A-Chain.
I wanted
but I
Sutton
needed the
and
running
Moore.
back.
I just figured I was gonna take Moore first. I just figured that because Sutton was at the top, that if I didn't take him there, I do think Russell Wilson does have a bounce back this year. And I'm just gonna go with another one of our guys, and that's Rondale Moore. In a flex, you want someone who's guaranteed to get around 8 or 9 targets a game. I think that he's going to do that, if not more. Having Marquise Brown be a guy who's very injury prone, it could end up that Rondale Moore is the number one receiver on that team. If not, he's the number 2, and who God knows who the quarterback's going to be each week before Kyler comes back, and he's the safety blanket option instead of Brown. So I think he's going to be great this year.
Yeah, so, and I should have known this. I'm happy I went A-Chain. I still would have gone A-Chain because my depth was extremely thin at the running back position, and I really do like my receivers. Sky Moore was my ideal pick. Obviously, that didn't happen. Looking at the board, I'm done with quarterbacks. I'm not taking another quarterback for the rest of the draft. Obviously, I have 3 guys I feel like I can trust. Running back, before the news of Damian Harris and his knee giving him trouble, I would have smashed Damian Harris here. I think he has tremendous touchdown upside, but I'm not going to mess around with a guy whose knee is hurt, and Latavius Murray apparently looks really good in camp. And receiver-wise, I don't love the receivers on the board right now. There's a guy that I like a little bit late. Well, there's a couple guys I like a little bit later. Sky Moore was just in a tier above everyone else for me at the receiver position. I like my receivers. I don't know if I've really talked about him very much, but I think I'm starting to become a believer. I always love the talent. It's just one of those things where rookie tight ends never really produce. I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid here. I think that he's extremely gifted. I really do love the talent. I never question the talent. It's just one of those things where rookie tight ends never really do anything. But to me, he's in a situation where he's the number 2 on one of the better offenses in the league. So I'm very comfortable taking a shot on that. Taking a look at what fell to me here. And this is what I wanted. So, like I said, Damian Harris would have been a guy I would have taken. But looking at the board, there was a couple of guys that I really like and I think would have fallen to me. And I'm torn. There's a guy who's a little bit safer, and there's a guy who I think has a little bit more upside. But you know what? I'm going to go for, you got to risk it for the biscuit. I'm going to go with my boy Roshan. I think that he is extremely talented. I think that if he gets a chance to prove himself, he was really quiet in the preseason game this past week. But I think that he is extremely talented, as I've said, and I think that he will at some point make an impact. I think he's good at both as a runner, but I think he's also a very good pass catcher. So I'm excited for what he could do if he really gets an opportunity.
And I was hoping to get Johnson to, be my handcuff for Herbert. That way I could have them throughout the season. I'm going to go with a guy who I think a lot of people are sleeping on, and that's Devin Singletary. He got paid too much money to not be used. And then let's check out. So I have Richardson, and we're going to go with another stack. Yes, he dropped his touchdown in the preseason. But Alec Pierce, I think, is going to be the main beneficiary of Anthony Richardson this year, not Michael Pittman. For value at least. As much as I love Pittman, I think that Pierce is going to be a big sleeper this year. I could see them both being in like the low, like wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 output, and you can get him in the 14th instead of Pittman in like the 4th.
Yeah, so Pierce was one of the 2 receivers that I would have considered. My guy is not low down on the board, but I think he's low enough to where I could take the risk. And I also think that my running back position needs a little more love. So when I said I have the upside guy, and that's what I went with Roshan, I'm going to go with my safety guy and Jalen Warren. I think he's going to be really involved in the passing game. And I think that he's going to get his, 10 to 15 touches every game. I'm really excited. Like I said earlier when I took Pickett, I'm pretty excited for the Steelers offense. I think they're going to be sneaky good. I think they are, they're in a division that I think every team is fantastic, and it's going to be shootout after shootout, quite honestly. And if I'm being perfectly honest with everyone here, these last 2 picks have devastated me. Honestly, the last 3 picks. I like Chuba Hubbard. Just keeping it real. I like Chuba Hubbard. I would have definitely considered him with one of my last 2 picks. But when I took Jalen Warren, the receiver that I was hoping maybe could fall to me was John Mechie. Should have known better, but Kenny Gainwell was pretty deep down on the running back rankings. I thought that there was a really good shot that he would fall to me. I love Kenneth Gainwell. I've been Rashad Penny guy over the course of this offseason, and I still think that he has a ton of talent. But I think that Gainwell is one of the favorites of the coaches, and I think that he's a good passer or pass catcher. He's a good runner, and I think that, like I said, the coaches love him. I think he's going to get a significant amount of touches. So I'm looking at my team here. Those last 2 picks, like I said, ruined me. I'm torn between a couple of guys, and this is going to be one of those picks where I think the guy that I want is going to fall to me. But I'm going to go with a guy who, as of right now, Josh Jacobs is still not with the team. So I'm going to go with a swing for the fences type guy with Zamir White. I think that Zamir White is a talented player, and if Josh Jacobs ends up not coming back, I think that he's going to be really productive this year.
And I'm going to go with a player who, yes, he's starting on the PUP, but I have a lot of safe receivers. I kind of need that explosive guy, so I'm going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson. And finally, I'm going to take the preseason star in Tank Dell, who I think might actually even outproduce John Mechie. In college, he had the best catch and traffic percentage, and clearly it showed that his ball skills are that translatable to the NFL with that catch that he had in the red zone the other day.
Yeah, so obviously we're with this last pick here. The receiver there's 2 that I would really consider, Van Jefferson, Marvin Mims. I really do like both of them, but I took, with Kincaid, I took a guy who, like I said, I think his upside's really good, but I think his floor is really, really low. So I'm going to go with a guy who is going at the end of drafts, and I just think that he's going to get peppered with targets, quite honestly. I'm all in on Hayden Hurst this year. I think that he's going to get like 6 to 8 targets every week. I think he's going to have – I think at the end of the day, every week when we look at the box score, 4 for 40 is going to be the norm, and then, there's the week where he gets a touchdown. So I'm going to go with the floor play and hope that and then, give Kincaid a week or 2 to get his foot in the door, and then just go all out with him for the rest of the year once he's settled in as the number 2 target.
So as we always do, we're going to review our draft. We got to do it quick kind of because I have to take this work call. But you go first since you drafted first.
So Justin Fields, Dak at Prescott at quarterback, Pollard, Rashad White at running back, Kupp, Moore at receiver, Kincaid at tight end, Pittman, Addison, Cooks at my flex, and my benches, Kenny Pickett, A-Chain, Roshan, Jalen Warren, Zamir White, and Hayden Hurst. I'm happy with my team. I think that I even myself out well. I'm a little thin at receiver, only having 5 guys, but I really like all 5 of them a lot. So I'm happy with my team.
And my team at quarterback, we have Trevor Lawrence and Tua with Anthony Richardson as well. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and Christian Kirk. Running back, Joe Mixon and Pacheco. Tight end, Pitts. And then for flexes, we got Herbert, Bateman, Sutton, and Moore, with the bench being Singletary, Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Tank Dell. I think my team's pretty well balanced. I definitely think that Richardson might end up being the starter over Tua. Part of me wishes that I drafted Olave there, and that way I could have Lamb, Olave, and Kirk, and then just waited until that point that I took Richardson. So I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but I basically did that exact same thing that I just mentioned in my actual Superflex league. I ended up taking Dak. My team ended up being pretty stacked. I have A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Amon-Ra St. Brown as my wide receivers because I waited to draft a quarterback. I also ended up with Saquon Barkley and Rashad White as my running backs and Kyle Pitts as my tight end. I think it's important that we show our actual drafts now that we're getting closer to the actual draft season. For my flexes, I had Pacheco, Bateman, Dolchik, Corey Davis, Isaiah Hodgkins, and then I ended up with Anthony Richardson as well. And I took Derek Carr also. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into super flexes. And
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to say, I mean, obviously Olave over Tua hurts now, but I was shocked by how far Richardson fell. Like I said, I considered him 3 times or 2 times before you ended up taking him. So that's the thing that sucks. Hindsight's 2020, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. That's why some people have perfect drafts and others have great drafts. But we will catch you all in the next video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see ya.